Okay, so back to it. We were noticing that there's white in the border, in the words, in the pillow, in the bear, in the blanket, maybe even in her race. Um, the color white, I happen to know because I've done some research in it before, that white symbolizes purity. But if you don't really have an image in your head of white, you might research that. You might go over to Google and say white color significance, right? And then you might find a great color wheel pro or the meaning of the color white, looking light, goodness, innocence, purity, virginity, perfection, safety, has a positive connotation, doesn't it? And yeah, those are things that I think of when I'm looking at this. This white definitely gives me this feeling of white kind of equals safety, white equaling the purity, white equaling innocence. When I think of white, I think of the fact that it's colorless, right? If you know anything about white, it's equal parts of all colors. So there's an equality to that, right? Because it's a little bit of everything in white. Um, and the fact that it's all over gives me that feeling of safety and purity and innocence and color and equality all over, right? It's flooding that page, right? And if it's flooding it, it's just kind of almost overwhelming, could be, or very secure, very relaxing, right? Because I don't have a whole lot of color that's disparate that I'm looking at all over the place. So those are things the white kind of makes me think. If I remember that I was looking at the preamble to the Constitution, well, knowing that the preamble of the Constitution is the beginning of our Constitution, it not only says who deserves justice, but how it's going to be delivered. So defining that for how it's going to be interpreted, who has the power for that. When I know about the preamble, I think, man, it gave us power, right? And it gave power to all the people. So again, man, there was a quality to that, right? It was we the people. It wasn't, even though we can probably define it a little bit differently now that we've kind of in hundreds of years seeing the experience of it, but the intent was we, right? So there's group in that, right? There's a sense of a collective, right? Or joining together, of inclusion even, and power, right? The Constitution gave us our power, and that's where we derive our power. And it gives us our laws, and our laws are our protection. And our laws give us our importance as a country, as a united people, right? Unity. Oh, united people, unity, right? The preamble gives me all that. We, the people of this newly formed union. That's important, right? When I think of a pillow, man, I think of comfort. I think of rest. I think of relaxation. I wouldn't put sleep, right? Because that's more concrete, but sleep makes me think of, oh, peace. Yeah. Maybe if I wanted to notice her hair and the way it was laid out as smooth, you don't, you don't get in bed like this, do you? Like get in bed and, oh, okay, I'm going to smooth back my own hair and make it nice and beautiful and sleep 3, 2, 1, go. No, someone has come in, right? So she has protection again, right? It kind of is hearkening back to that way that her blanket was. It gives me that sense of security. It gives me that sense of love. It gives me that sense of peacefulness, right? If you can sleep with your hair unmussed, smoothed back by whoever came in and smoothed it, boy, you are pretty peaceful. And then again, the fact that there was sleep involved. That gives me all these same things, right? If I can sleep, I'm pretty secure, peaceful, loved. I might write these same words down again if it were me. Sleeping also gives me the sense of rest, relaxation, maybe. So we talked about white in a variety of places. Maybe we want to even focus. When I looked at her, I thought she was of the white race, right? She looks kind of white, but if I really get into it, if I really notice, do I know definitively that she's white? Does she say, oh, I'm just asleep, this little white girl, just asleep? No, she doesn't, right? So even though it looks that way to me, if I can't definitively say that, I'm not going to want to use that, right? Because I can't prove it definitively with evidence. So maybe if I can't definitively prove that she's white, maybe that's important that I can't definitively prove she's white. Maybe she's Puerto Rican. Maybe I want to talk about that. Maybe the fact that her hair is black and not blonde. I mean, if you know anything about being blonde, let's look at that. The blonde hair color. If you'll know that blonde hair color in world is not very universal, right? So 2% of people are naturally blonde in the world. So the fact that they used dark hair gives a sense of everyman, right? Gives a sense of all. Gives a sense of, how do I want to define this a little bit more specifically? Multicultural. Yeah, right? It's going to appeal to somebody who maybe sees themselves in it, right? Maybe they can see, oh, I'm of Puerto Rican descent and I see that in myself. Oh, I'm biracial and I can see myself in that. If they used a little blonde girl, maybe I wouldn't be able to identify with it as much, right? So there's a sense of identity to that for sure, and of equalness in the fact that her race is ambiguous, right? Ambiguous. So as we were looking maybe at the bear on the nose and the embroidered and the silk, that all gave us those ideas of expensive. Maybe I don't want to focus on those anymore. I talked about the blanket being tucked in. Maybe I don't want to focus on. Maybe the preamble being written in black. Black gives me that sense of firmness, of contrast to all the white in the picture. It's pretty much the only blackness aside from her hair that's in there. And we said her hair kind of helped us find that equality, equalness, I don't know what that word is, identity or ambiguity. The black gives us a sense of strength, right? Of permanence. It has lacking of all those colors, right? So it's just a pole that can kind of essentially go on forever. So that's black. And then we want to kind of look at the teddy bear being tucked in, and as she's holding it, she's not choking it, right? And it's not laying haphazardly everywhere. It's very purposefully tucked in. So not only is she tucked in, but all that around her is being tucked in. And if we think about everything being tucked in, there's a sense of security for everything with that. Not only is she tucked in, but the teddy bear is tucked in. And it's expensive, but protected, right? And it's loved. The way she's holding it, her and whoever tucked it in, right? There's a sense of love from those things that are really important to notice. Okay, so as we've gone through, we've written down as much as we want. Maybe we've skipped ones that we've hit over there before, and we've thought about all the words that come to us in play. Now we're going to move on to relationship. Okay,